Hi, sorry, me again. I talked to you about volunteering last time. I am the volunteer and events coordinator at CCF, so I'm going to be doing a bit on events today. So Alice, who works in our team, asked me for my sort of top do's and don'ts. I think there's event planners that have been shared with you and strategies and stuff. So I just thought I'd share what I've learned from doing events for a long time. So my sort of top tips. Each slide is something from one of my favourite events. So I just thought I'd share those because it might inspire you to do similar events. Yeah. So this one, you can see Alana there. This is, we broke the record for running the world's biggest repair cafe. And it was a joyous occasion, but also probably the most stressful day of my life. So that was that one. We did break the world record. This is, so this is my first top tip, and I didn't even realise it would be my top tip, but it's start taking photographs straight away. Especially if you're just starting your project, they are invaluable for your publicity, for your reporting, to make up posters, for your website, for your newsletter. Just start snapping now and you'll just get this lovely media library and you'll use them again and again. It could be a volunteer role description that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. You know, there's so many sort of budding photographers everywhere. I'm sure they would, you know, someone might like that title of, you know, sustainability group photographer. So this is one of my favorite pictures. I love this picture because you can see people doing things together and there's just such a lovely connection between those two people. So I'd always recommend, it's not always easy to make event photos really engaging, but I think if you've got a couple of people smiling and doing something, it really helps. So a couple more of my kind of more favoured ones, and these are ones that we just pull out again and again and again and again. We have thousands. So the one on the top left, yeah, again, same. People doing things together, smiling, having a good time. Again, this is a volunteer, a Dutch guy called Brand. He's happy cooking for a big food event that we had. Again, the one bottom left, similar thing, you know, try and capture people from, you know, different groups and stuff, just all working together on something positive. So doing something around open eco homes, I don't do much on that, but it's always hard to get some interesting pictures of buildings and to illustrate open eco homes. But I think this picture is good just because it's got some people in it and they're showing and they're looking. If you have a picture just of a house with some solar panels on, you know, it's dead boring. So those are some of the pictures that we use again and again. And I was going to ask Jasmine just to give a little bit of advice about the sort of pictures you take and how you can use them. Jasmine.
So my advice is primarily if you're using them on, say, social media, think about that if you're using it like on Twitter, if you're using it on Facebook, if you're using it on Instagram, they all have different kind of sizes that are suitable for it. So you can use the same image for each one, but you've just got to bear in mind how that will be positioned in each one. So for instance, Twitter is much more of a landscape, very long. So if you just take the top left-hand one on this screen, if you were to do like that one and just take the middle part, you wouldn't really get to see much of the interaction between the people. So you might have to rearrange that depending on the image. And like, so for Instagram, it's basically a square. And for Facebook, it's quite similar to the top left-hand one we have here. So it's always good to bear in mind that if you're planning to promote your images like on social media, just how they're going to be positioned. And then we were also talking about with images, you kind of want them to be high res if possible. So we'll talk about rule of thumb is if it's the bigger the file, usually the better resolution of the image. And yeah, so usually bigger file, better resolution of the image, and it's better not to, so if you have your image, don't compress it when sending it to yourself. So if you send it via email, it sometimes compresses it. So try and upload it maybe directly to a drive or something like that to make sure you get the best possible resolution. I'm not sure, Alana, if you have anything else to add for images.
No, I think that's plenty, Jasmine. We can always come back to it in the Q&A.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I always get confused, and I always like to take portrait pictures, and I just kept doing that for years, and then just realised I had to take more landscape pictures because otherwise we couldn't use it in most of the platforms that we use. Now this picture is a really powerful combination. I think you've read some of the climate outreach reports around heritage and how powerful that is, particularly in rural communities. So this is a picture that basically helped start off the Histon Impington Bicycle Club. I'm one of the founders of the Bicycle Club, and the Bicycle Club came about because we were looking at what the village was like in the interwar years, and I was making a display for the PTA, and I came across this picture, and it's just such an amazing picture. I mean, these two guys down here, you know, they're dressed really interestingly, and you know, the whole look of the picture, it's very vintage and kind of retro and stuff. So I put up those pictures and people just loved them, and it helped inspire people to want to start up the old ancient bicycle club. And it really was those original pictures that yeah, really got the club going again now, and it's a really successful big club. So yeah, photos, that's my sort of tip number one. This is from Cambridge Sustainable Food actually. So we do a lot of stalls, but actually I thought their stall was fantastic. So go for curb appeal. So having a stall with lots of like displays and leaflets is okay, but if you can think of something like this is not a huge amount of work. You know, it's a table with a cloth over it, some vegetables, all those signs they've got up at the back. You can read those from across the market square, so you immediately know what it is. You know, and you'll go up to it if you want to. Jasmine, do you know what were they writing pledges for food action they were going to take on food and climate on the plates?
So the idea was kind of that people could have a seat at the dinner table,
Okay.
say why they eat for our future. So there's a few that people had pre-written ourselves. So if people just wanted to pick one up, say we eat for our future, and have a snap of it, we've made it easy for them, because it was all to promote our new Cambridge Sustainable Food, who I also work with. We've got a climate diet campaign, so it's trying to encourage people to eat a more climate friendly diet. So we made it easy, so if people wanted to just pick up a plate, have a picture, get that snap, they could. But we also have the opportunity that if people wanted to write their own, say like use less plastic or eat seasonal and local, they could also write it, because some people really just enjoy that process. And it was found that I think especially for engaging with like younger kids, they really like just drawing on the plates and writing on it and stuff. And it did go through a thought process. Like originally people thought about stickers, but the actual, I think, idea of people writing it and getting to do it themselves, people really liked, because it just makes you feel involved in the event.
Yeah, so I thought that was fantastic. Love that. So have an opener. Always kind of know how you're going to start a conversation with someone. You could say, do you have 2 minutes to take our quiz? Have you got any ideas for our map? Can I ask your opinion on something? It's so much easier to start an opener like that. So this is one of our stalls, and we had a map here, and this stall was taking place in Chesterton. And we just asked for people all the different green projects or sustainable things that they knew in the area, and they added to the map in the day, and it worked really well. So have an opener if you can. Atmosphere. So this is from something called For the Love Of. So it's very active. We just had these heart-shaped post-it notes, and we just went up to people at a festival and just said, what is it that you love that would be threatened by climate change? And people loved it. And, you know, they wrote all these things. It could be coral reefs, it was future generations, trees, chocolate, all sorts of things. And it was a good opener, and it was a good way to start a conversation. And actually we were left with this really attractive, I mean, this doesn't capture even probably a third of it. And we had left with this really lovely display that we can use again and again for publicity and stuff. So make a nice atmosphere as well. You know, do try and have food at your events. It's welcoming, and it also creates a space for people to sit down and talk to each other. It creates that opening at an event. And you can make a place look really lovely, really easily. Stick up a bit of bunting, get some jam jars, stick some, you know, flowers from the garden in it, and voila, you have like a really welcoming, nice space. So the Girton Repair Cafe, they invite in the Allotment Society once a year, and they make up soup with the vegetables from the allotment, and they have these homemade jams and stuff, and they sell those and make money. Yeah. So the next one is what things to avoid, I would say. And I would say avoid the school summer holidays unless you've got a particular reason to do things in those times. Also avoid the week after the summer holidays end. So pretty much the first 2 weeks in September we find are dead as well. People are just still preoccupied with what's been happening and getting over their holiday. Their mindset is not in the right place to go along to events particularly. I would say avoid Friday evenings and Sunday mornings, and actually Sundays in general, unless there's a particular reason to do something on those days. And do check the calendar, avoid clashing with big events. So our repair cafe for International Repair Day on Saturday clashed with the Cambridge Half Marathon, and the roads were shut and stuff. Luckily not up to where we were, but actually they could have been, and we would have been a bit caught out with getting all our equipment to the repair cafe. So do check. I mean, the big weekend in Cambridge would probably be a no-goer, but you might have your own local events. And then obviously avoid World Cup finals, or when England is playing, or Wimbledon final, or anything like that, because yeah, people just won't come along. It's really easy to, you know, to clash with really big events. Okay, another top tip. This is a lovely, we did a circular fair about the circular economy, and this was an artist and he was selling these, and he makes art out of old books, and they're just absolutely gorgeous. So have a narrow entry and exit point. This is really, really important, I think. If you just have a little desk, but then loads of space around it, when people arrive, they will just swarm around your desk. You won't be able to speak to them. You won't be able to engage them. You might not be able to give them instructions. So have a really narrow point, because it just means that everyone has to walk past your kind of reception desk. And also on the way out, make the exit very narrow as well. It means that you can plonk your donation bucket on there, have someone there collecting some feedback forms and thank people. It's something we kind of learned after about 3 years. This one, volunteer briefings. So I used to write quite long volunteer briefings and just do them on Zoom. Zoom's fantastic for that. So you can send out your original, you know, request for people to get involved, but then 3 days before the event, just get everyone together on Zoom and have a 15-minute briefing. They can all meet each other. It's fantastic. And the next, I can't see because can I get the bar, Annie? The bar's over my text. How do I move it without the control panel thing?
I don't know. I can see it.
Okay, that's fine. I've got some. I just have to. Okay, next one. Don't become complacent. Even if you know a venue really well, or you've done the event loads of times, just do always check where the fire extinguisher is and where the first aid box is. You know, it's easy to think I know where those things are. So we had an incident where we were making wax wrap. It was a green Christmas event, and we were making wax wraps for wrapping up food. And the person running the event had done it, practiced it at home. They had an electric oven at home. So we went into this beautiful historic church in Histon and she was running the activity. We had our market going on. Suddenly the smoke was billowing out of the kitchen. The oven was gas. It had caught on the wax and the whole thing was up in flames. Luckily, she knew where the fire extinguishers were, and I evacuated the building really quickly. But I'm even feeling shaky now thinking about it, because we could have burnt down the most beautiful building in Histon and I would have had to leave the country basically. Yeah, no, that was really horrible, and she was really traumatized. But it was something that no one really thought about. Yeah, so do check where those things are, because you never know, and you know, things can happen. Okay, well, this is a picture of Alana meeting David Attenborough and telling him what a swish was. So that was lovely. What gets counted counts. So I know sometimes doing the feedback and evaluation is a bit of a pain, but it really does make a difference. And you can do it simply, you know, at the end of your event or towards the exit, you can have a flip chart with, you know, people tick, what did they, you know, how did you find this event, or write notes. You can have a volunteer going around with a clipboard and asking people for their responses. You can do a follow-up email with a jot form, or you can just, what is that? I'll read it. Oh, if you have an iPad at your event, that's really handy, because people can just straight away put their feedback into a form there and then it's just done. You don't have to input any data or anything like that afterwards. This is another one of my favourite events. This was a ration challenge that we ran many years ago. We wanted people to think about a climate diet and a sort of a less wasteful diet. So we created these ration books, and people tried to live on the rations that they would live on in the interwar years, in the rationing years. Yeah, so that could be repeated, you know, by any group that wanted to try something like that. It really, really engaged people. So it covered off waste and packaging, yeah, all sorts. So the points here are: have fun, but do make sure to get your message across. You know, do have information about the issues. You can always use Cambridge Carbon Footprint Calculator to go through people's footprints with them. You can project information onto a wall if you've got a projector. And do think about the pull through, you know, with all your people that have come to the event. Don't just let them drop off. You know, get them to sign up to a newsletter, mention your up and coming next event, and invite them to an introductory drink after, or, you know, a social event after the event. And the final thing is partner up. Think about where your issues transect with issues from other groups. It will mean that you can share resources, you can share footfall, you can share equipment, you can share publicity, and you can share people. So this is the Cambridge Resilience Web that's been built by Transition. It's just fantastic, and it just shows how many different groups there can be in a community, you know, that has similar aims. And yeah, so maybe worth doing something like that. And so those are my top tips. Yeah, thank you.